Hello everyone, welcome to a new video series I want to try out on the channel called How to Feel, where I take trending topics in gaming that I want to discuss and I tell you how to feel about them, because one of the great strengths of the internet is doing your thinking for you. And today's topic, the initial bon voyage video, is the shop being added to Tekken 8 post-launch. This is a new strategy that developers and publishers have discovered, and it is quite effective, where instead of putting those ugly microtransactions and cosmetic shops and all that kind of thing in the launch version, what you do is you just launch the game and have all the IGNs and Eurogamers of the world do their initial reviews. There's nothing to critique about the cosmetics or about microtransactions, so they don't. You get your review scores, and then a few months later, when nobody's watching and the monthly content cycle has moved on from your game, then you just, put in those microtransactions. And the reason why this works is twofold. The first reason why is because IGN and these types of review sites don't take themselves all that seriously as actual reviewers of the products. Because let's say I was doing a official numbered review. I have a review of Tekken 8 that I'm quite proud of, and even in that review I left some wiggle room in there where this is the launch version of the game that I'm discussing, that there could be further issues brought into the game after the launch version, and here we are. It has arrived, this microtransaction DLC shop. And anyway, so the reason why this works, again, the first reason why is because IGN and these types of reviewers, either they're shills or either they're lazy, whatever it is, but they won't go back, maybe they will start and revise the review a little bit. So if I wrote for IGN at this point and this Tekken shop comes out, I would actually go back to my initial review and add in a little addendum to it and say, okay, I'm taking a point off. And then at the bottom where they have their little list of critiques, I'd say, I'm taking a point off post-launch for Namco being some sneaky and putting in microtransactions post-launch, so that the developers would not have this strategy of going around it. That's one way that would prevent this. Another reason why this works, though, is the fan base of these franchises. I'm a Tekken fan. I enjoy Tekken. It is annoying and obnoxious that they put this shop in post-release, but what am I going to do? Am I going to stop playing Tekken based off of this? And there's a lot of fans out there now and a lot of discussion out there now, sort of like corporate cheerleading, I guess you could call it, where they kind of justify, well, Namco's in a tough spot, financially, everything's expensive, production costs are really expensive, which is all very true. But the thing about this is how to feel, so I'm going to tell you how to feel. How you should feel about companies like Namco, companies you're a fan of, companies you respect. Namco is one of the few large publishers and developers that I still have some respect for. How you should feel about these companies is you should have a slightly adversarial relationship.
I don't think I've ever said this to most of the writers, because I basically like to have a slightly adversarial, is that the word? Mm-hmm. relationship with them, but I think they're unbelievable.
With these types of companies and with our production generally, where you respect their work, you respect what they're going for, but you are not part of their boardroom. You are not making profits if Namco makes profits. You are their customer, and if you want to get the best out of something, that slight adversarial relationship is always going to be more effective than just signing up and cheerleading whatever they do. So that has always been my attitude towards these types of things. Now, I do know that a lot of YouTubers and so forth can get kind of idealistic about these sort of things, where we're all like, hey, we're not a fan of these DLC microtransaction practices. I am still not a fan of this whole character DLC. That still bothers me actually quite a bit more than cosmetic costumes, the fact that you have to buy characters and that they literally change the game and add more bull characters as they go, Fakuram and all that. I'm still not a fan of that, but what am I going to do? So it's kind of this sliding scale, and it's kind of like that old adage of how crazy a girl is versus how hot she is, and like that ratio there where the hotter she is, the more crazy she can get away with. I think games are like that as well. So Tekken 8, it's a hot game. I really like what it's bringing. I really like what it's putting on the table. So it does have a little bit more leeway to pull some than like Star Wars Battlefront or some type of game that I wouldn't even want to play in the beginning. And that is the reality of it. And that's something that doesn't sound that appealing on paper. It doesn't sound that like convincing when you say it in a YouTube video, but I think that is the reality of the situation. That being said, I hate the position Namco puts me in with this type of crap, where there's two things I really dislike. I dislike sounding really preachy and self-righteous, but I also dislike feeling like I'm getting ripped off in shady business practices. So these are like two fundamental instincts of the Electric Underground that are always like in contention with one another, where I hate to sit behind a microphone and preach the same thing people have been saying about DLC for 10 years now. But at the same time, it still annoys me and bothers me. And so here is the correct view. This is how to feel. So I'll give you the correct view of the Tekken 8 shop situation, which is that the fact that Tekken 8 launched with a shop post-launch, is it really that big of a deal in the end, in like the wider zoomed out perspective? No, not necessarily. Like in a real practical day-to-day sense, it's not that big of a deal. And I think you'll hear a lot of YouTubers saying that. That being said though, is it totally cool and fine? That's not true either. I think a good analogy that came to me thinking about the situation is, let's say you're dating a girl and you're out shopping with her or something like that, and then she has this like weird interaction with a guy. Maybe it's a little bit awkward. They kind of say hello to each other, and then he walks away and there's like a weird vibe. And you ask her, oh, who was that guy? And she says, oh, he's just some guy from high school. And that's kind of true, but it turns out he's her ex-boyfriend. And even if there's nothing going on between them, and she was just lying to you because she was scared of how you'd react, she's scared you'd get jealous or something, even if that's the case and it is totally benevolent, there's still that bit of manipulation that degrades at your trust. And I think that is the case here with this Tekken 8 shop, where if Namco had just had the shop up front and just launched it along with the game, which you know it totally was ready to do so, this was a strategic move. If they've just been up front and like, here, there's DLC costumes, buy them if you don't want to buy them if you do, I don't think a lot of people would have cared. I wouldn't, oh, whatever, this is lame. But you know, we've been so beaten down by DLC over the years and shady business practices, I think a lot of us wouldn't even register it at this point. But the fact that they're like sneaking it by us, you know, again, it's that little bit of manipulation there. I think the ultimate consequence of this is that it's just undignified. It's gauche. It's like, what are you doing, Namco? There was that high level of respect I had for you when you launched Tekken 8 of like, you know, you're being upfront, you're being awesome, you're being artistic. There's some really smart moves here. And then you start pulling this. It's like, it's just cringe. And so what do you do with these feelings? I think at this stage in the hotness scale, Tekken 8 is still hot enough to get away with it. This is like an argument and she says something about your mother out of nowhere. You know, the first time it's like, okay, that's a little crazy. But if this continues and we start to see more and more of this and she starts in your bed or beating you with vodka glasses or something, then it gets to be like, okay, that's a bit much, Namco. We're going to have to check out of this. And so that is my overall assessment of the situation. It's just an ugly reminder that as much as we think of Namco and all these companies that make some pretty awesome games as artists, and as much as they present themselves as artists, there's also that ugly corporate side that's going to come and bite you in the ass. And you have to keep an eye out for it. You can't just be blindly following along with the roadmap to Tekken 8 or in the roadmap for content and all that. And so Namco, cut it out. The launch window of a new fighting game is key, and the last thing you need is to f this up. And the thing about it is DLC, microtransactions, this is still internet critic fodder where you can take someone from IGN who may not know a damn thing about Tekken and how it plays, but they do know how to talk about microtransactions and how lame microtransactions are. And you know, that is true. So Namco, pull yourself together when it comes to future decisions with DLC. Though I get the feeling when you all put Tifa in the Tekken shop, a lot of this criticism is going to be lost in the amnesia of hype. So I guess Namco can look forward to that. Adios, everyone.
So thank you to the $5 patrons, 100, Accepting Panda, Admiral Coconut, Anhold, Alexander Pfeiffer, Anthony A, Arcade Hell, Arrow Viper, Auto-Named, Bean Pit, Bo, Ben, Vito Dames, Boghog, Borky22, Chase Palumbo, Chris Yusufovich, Chronic Burnout 3, Clara Cliff, Climby Coyote, Coast, Coconut Crab, Color Boy, Cooksand 666, Cook Some Soup, Krusty Boy, Des Audio, Dan Chi, Darren Griffin, Dave Hansen, David Crespo, Delta Tango 6, Dick Jones, Dingo, Disco Stas Leia, DJ 420 Praise It, Dr. Bosky, Elias Alonso, Evan Serafet, Fabra, FCK, F Deluxe, Friskin, Frames Per Human, Francisco, Full Set, Game Boy Guru, Geese Machine, GPM, Gustavo Sanchez, Hausu, Jake Ryan, Jacob Valenzuela, JLab, JB RPG, Jink Hans, John Kelly, John Longwalker, K Horse, K2, Contain, Praise the Boys, Last of 7, Low Casting, Mieshpa, Blaze, Mars Bar, Matt O'Leary, Maz, Megadeth 859, Minung, Monroe, Nathaniel Davis, Neon Dagger Games, Okla Googles, Ospi, Pedro Perez, Psycho Blizzard, Queen Charlene, Ralph Trujillo, Raul VP, Real Skeen, Ren Halt's Time, Retro Schmupper, Rory Starks, Rolf015, Ryan Bartlett, Scanline City, Shazzy, Shmup Junkie, Sarah Pong, Spiders STG, Steady AI, Steve Fiction, Street Magic, Superfunk, Taze Ryu, The Boot Rex, The Dirty Screech, The N1, The Old Bensta, Toho Rizardi, Sugumo, 2YU, Twilight EX, Unikoi Roots, Ursula, Ushimushi, Big Viper, Beautiful, Wabby Legs, Zachary Patton, and Zeal.